ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الهداة المهديين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب قدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم الملعونين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة. For the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of the Muharram, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama, Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam, Arwahum al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. Another one, please. Thank you. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one who is Rahman and one who is Rahim. The majalis of Imam al-Hussein, as I said yesterday, is an opportunity. Just like at that time, the call of Imam al-Hussein was an opportunity for those that chose to answer it. But there were those that did not answer the call of the Imam. And so that makes us, over 1,000 years later, have a lot to think about. These individuals, they understood who their Imam was. Ubaydullah ibn Jawfi said, I know that you are on truth, but I can't come with you. Was not willing to give himself for the sake of the Imam. He was willing to give wealth in the way of the Imam. That's easy, even by our standards. That's easy nowadays. Someone asks us to dedicate ourselves to the cause of the Imam, and we say, yeah, I really don't have time, but I'll give you a donation. Ubaydullah ibn Jawfi did exactly the same thing. I can't come to the Husayniyah to help set up, to help, to volunteer, to do all of these things. I don't have time. But I'll give you a donation. Just get you off my back. Ubaydullah ibn Jawfi did exactly that. He refused to join the Imam of his time because he wasn't willing to sacrifice himself. He wasn't willing to give himself in the way of his Imam.
And there were many others. Umar ibn Sa'ad, for example. Umar ibn Sa'ad, Imam al-Hussein approaches him. Zuhair ibn Qayn approaches him. Imam approaches him when he first arrives in Karbala. Imam goes to visit him one-on-one. Says Umar ibn Sa'ad, you know what you are doing is wrong. Join me, and I guarantee you the shafa'ah of my grandfather on the day of judgment. He says, Ibn Rasulillah, I can't, things are difficult. I know you're on truth. I know you're on truth. But I have a family to support. Imam says, we will take care of your family. Says, I have a house in Kufa. Says, we will give you a house in the area of Bani Hashim in Medina. Says, they're paying me. Imam says, we will give you all of the money that you need. Says, but they've offered me the governorship of Ray. Imam looks at him and says, we cannot give you the governorship of Ray. Says, I can't join you. 7th or 8th of Muharram, Zuhair ibn Qayn goes to visit him. Says to Imam al-Hussein, says, look, me and Umar ibn Sa'ad, we go way back, in our terms, as we would say. Let me go and speak to him. Imam says, it's fruitless, but if you wish, go and try. So he goes into the tent of Umar ibn Sa'ad and starts to address him. Umar ibn Sa'ad says, do you not say salam to a Muslim when you approach them? He says, do you think yourself still to be a Muslim when the children of Rasulullah are dying of thirst and the dogs and the pigs are drinking from the Furat? Do you still consider yourself to be a Muslim? They have a conversation. In the end, the result of it is Zuhair ibn Qayn comes out, says to Imam al-Hussein, Ibn Rasulillah, he's killed you for the governorship of Ray. He's killed you for the governorship of Ray. Many had the opportunity to change, to come towards truth. And that in reality is the whole mission of Imam al-Hussein, to bring individuals towards haqq, towards the truth. That's the whole purpose. And the purpose of these majalis is exactly that. To try and bring us back to that reality, that truth. And I should have given this disclaimer, it totally slipped my mind. But everywhere I go, and because I'm so used to you guys seeing you all the time, I forgot to give you my official disclaimer, and that was, it is highly likely in the coming nights, and in the previous nights, I have probably offended you. And I will continue to offend you, likely. Not because I want to offend you, but at times we must place a mirror up against our own nafs. And when that is done, the nafs reacts back. It doesn't like to be told. It has a defense mechanism. It doesn't like reformation, because inherently the nafs of a person is lazy. Doesn't want change. And ubudiyya, servitude, is difficult. Is difficult. So I'm giving that disclaimer now, retrospectively, and then also going forward. If everyone could please move forward, I think that's probably the most offensive thing I've been saying. And if you guys could also, if it's not too much bother. A bit more. So we began yesterday and the day before looking at Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira of Imam al-Hadi. And I've said that this is one of the most perfect ziyarat in terms of the ma'arif of Ahlul Bayt, knowing Ahlul Bayt. But this isn't all of the kamal of Ali Muhammad. This isn't all the virtues of Ali Muhammad. Rather, this is all the virtues that we can bear to understand. Otherwise, Ali Muhammad are far greater than that. So for two majalis, we looked at this idea of salam, and inshallah, that has now sunk in, and we'll all say salam to each other as well, in addition to the imams. The first opening line of Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira, it says this: Assalamu alayka ya ahl bayt al-nubuwah wa mawdi' al-rasalah. Salam be upon you, O the household of prophethood and the place of messengership. Note that it doesn't say Ya Ahl Bayt al-Rasul. It doesn't say, oh, the household of the Rasul, of the Prophet, or Ahl Bayt al-Nabi. It doesn't say the household of the Prophet, or the household or the place of the messenger. But rather it says the household of prophethood. Of prophethood. And so in order to understand this idea of Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwah, why is it here that Ali Muhammad are being addressed as the household of prophethood itself, not the household of a prophet? We need to understand a few points. The first is something that I've mentioned previously, and that is that this world has been created vertically. By vertical, I mean in terms of its esoteric existence, that there is Tawheed at the top, if you would imagine it like this, and then there is the realm of Wilayah, and then there is the rest of existence. Be that the angelic realms of the Malakut, or then this physical plane. Because there are semi-permanent, semi-material, semi-immaterial, total immaterial realms that are beyond the dunya. And we'll talk about that immateriality when we begin to discuss the angels and the role of the angels. So the first thing to understand is that this world has been created vertically in terms of its existences. There are stages, there are levels in terms of how close one is to the divine, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second point is that the realm of Wilayah comes directly after the realm of Tawheed. And everything that must pass from Tawheed must pass through the realm of Wilayah. Okay? The third point is this, that Risalat and Nabuwat are branches of Wilayat. They are branches of Wilayat. And Wilayah has levels within it. Risalat and Nabuwat, messengership and prophethood, are branches of that Wilayat. So every Nabi and every Rasul is a Wali. But not every Wali is a Nabi or a Rasul. For example, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is one of the awliya of Allah. He is a Wali of Allah, but he's not a Nabi or a Rasul. Or indeed, our Imams, they are the awliya of Allah, but they're not prophets, nor are they messengers. So, prophethood and Risalat are branches of Wilayat. Now when we look at Wilayah, there are two types of Wilayah. There is Wilayah Tamma, there is total Wilayah, and a partial Wilayah. Total Wilayah is individuals that have ascended every possible rank and station till they have achieved total proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that no one else can get any closer than that. And they've reached the highest realms. At this stage of total wilaya, an individual becomes the manifestation of all of the names of Allah. Becomes the manifestation of all of the names of Allah. And at this stage, there exists no intermediary between the wali tam, the one that has total wilaya, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no barrier between them. There is no intermediary. They draw directly from the realm of Tawheed. Rather, the wali tam, the one at the level of wilayat tam, is the barrier between Allah and the rest of existence. And the rest of existence. So the one that is wali tam has total authority over every single nook and cranny of existence. Material, immaterial, permanent, semi-permanent. They have control over all that is in existence. The humans, the angels, the jinns, the animals. Everything is under their control except Allah. Allah is above them. Yeah? The one that is at the maqam of wali tam, of being total, the total wali, or the one that has total wilaya. Partial wilaya is an individual that has ascended some ranks in the realms of wilaya and has some level of closeness towards Allah, and he has been bestowed with certain names of Allah. He's able to manifest some. I say he, I mean she as well, right? It's not just like, just men can be waliyatan. So he or she can also manifest some of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's achieved some level of closeness to Allah, but not total proximity. Not total proximity. So the one that possesses this total wilaya is an individual that must be the best of creation. Must be the best of creation. Cannot have any flaws or faults within him, because he has ascended the highest ranks of servitude and have now become the barrier between Tawheed and the rest of existence. The one that is wali tam receives every single one of the phase of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessings and the barakah of Allah first, before anything else in existence. The wali tam receives it. Be that sustenance, be that life, be that death, be that anything, the bounties, the barakat, the mercy of Allah. The wali tam receives it first before anything in existence. And then from the wali tam, from that realm of wilaya, those virtues from God, of the names of God, that life, that death, that sustenance, those bounties, are then distributed from the wali tam to the rest of existence via different methods. Okay? And there is no doubt in the aqidah of the Shia Ithna Ashari school of thought that the wali tam is none other than the blessed wujud of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Recite aloud salawat. The wujud of the Holy Prophet and the 13 ma'sumin. They are all at the level of wilayat tam. They have excelled in all of the stations before Allah and achieved this total wilaya. So no barrier exists between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, they are the barrier between all of existence and Allah. And this is in a hadith. Rasulullah says there is no barrier between Ali and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, Ali ibn Abi Talib is the barrier between Allah and the rest of existence. Why Amirul Mu'mineen? The question comes that, whenever we talk about wilaya, why is it Amirul Mu'mineen all the time? Why is it Ali? The Urafa and the Ulama, they say the reason for this is because Amirul Mu'mineen is known as the Madhar-e Wilayat. He is the face of Wilayat. Every single entity, every single organization that is there requires a face. The face of Wilayat is the wujud of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is not to say that the other A'imma alayhimus salam are not Wali Tam or Amirul Mu'mineen has afdaliyah over them, or that the Holy Prophet is below Amirul Mu'mineen. No, they are all at one rank in terms of their batini wujud, in terms of their malakuti wujud. But there has to be a face, and so that's why it is always directed by the Holy Prophet towards the blessed wujud of Amirul Mu'mineen. So these individuals have excelled to the point where now they receive the greatest tajalli of Allah. If you read the dua of the day of Mab'ath, the night of Mi'raj, there is a dua. In that dua, it opens with this: Allahumma inni as'aluka bitajalli al-a'zam fi hadhihi al-layla min ash-shahr al-mu'azzam wal-mursal al-mukarram. Allah, I beseech you in the name of your greatest tajalli, your greatest manifestation that you bestowed upon the Holy Prophet. This greatest tajalli manifested, this greatest manifestation manifested only for the Holy Prophet of Islam. But by extension of that, because he says, Ana wa Ali min nurin wahid, Ana wa Ali min shajaratin wahida, that awwaluna Muhammad, akhiruna Muhammad, awsatuna Muhammad, wa kulluna Muhammad, referring that our nur is one. And we will explain in the later nights as well how the nur of Ali Muhammad was a single point, which then from there split, and the rest of creation was created from various, the anwar of Ali Muhammad. So by extension of the Holy Prophet and his wujud going, this also applies to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. The Holy Prophet ascends through the heavens to the point, the maqam that the Holy Quran in Surah An-Najm calls Aw Adna. To the maqam of Aw Adna. We're even closer. The Holy Prophet is ascending through Mi'raj, and he stops at the various levels. At the first level he meets Hazrat Adam, first level of heaven, he meets Adam alayhi salam. Second, he meets Yahya and Isa alayhi salam. The sixth, Hazrat Musa. Seventh, Hazrat Ibrahim. All of these, and you've heard all of the stories as well. Holy Prophet sees many different things in there. He sees the batini wujud of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam as well. There's much that we can speak about there. Until he reaches a point known as Sidratul Muntaha. Sidratul Muntaha is a point at the end of the angelic realms, after which no creation can pass. Sidratul Muntaha is referred to, like they say, there is a cedar tree that grows at the edge of the angelic realms, at the edge of the malakut, beyond which no one can go. And this is where Jibreel says, if I go, I shall perish, my wings will burn. None can transverse this realm. That realm, istilahan, they call it the Lahut, but we're not really concerned about its name right now. So at the end of the malakut is Sidratul Muntaha, the edge of existence, as it were. And after this point, it is but Tawheed and the realms of Tawheed. There is a beautiful narration from the Holy Prophet, if I'm not mistaken, from the seventh Imam. He says that when the Holy Prophet ascended through all of these ranks and reached Sidratul Muntaha, فَقَالَ جِبْرَائِيل, and then Jibreel said to him, هذه سدرة المنتهى كان ينتهي الأنبياء من قبلك إليها. This is سدرة المنتهى. all of the previous prophets of God in their Mi'raj could only come to this point, could not go beyond this point, Ya Rasulullah. ثم لا يجاوزونها وأنت تجاوزها إن شاء الله ليريك من آياته الكبرى. They were not given permission to go past Sidratul Muntaha, but you, Ya Rasulullah, have been given permission to go past Sidratul Muntaha so that you may view His greatest manifestation, His Ayatul Kubra. The Holy Prophet transverses the realm, passes over, enters the realm of Tawheed, and the Quran now takes over. ثم دنا فتدلى وكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى. He went closer and closer till there was only 2 bows' lengths or less between him. Now this قاب قوسين أو أدنى is not a physical measurement like 2 meters. A bow was 1 meter long, and so it's 2 meters. But it was to show this is metaphoric. No one can reach the center of God because we don't believe God has a center. God doesn't have a place where He is situated. In the Aqidah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam, in the Shia school of thought, God doesn't sit on a throne, nor does God inhabit a body, nor does He have makan. He does not change His state. He is but everywhere. But it is to show the spiritual ascension of the wujud of the Holy Prophet to this point of Adana. He comes so close to the essence of it all. Someone asks Imam al-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh, says to him that we've heard that Rasulullah would always faint when the revelation would come upon him. Is this true, that whenever the wahi would come upon the Holy Prophet, he would faint? Imam al-Sadiq says no. Not when the wahi came. Not when Jibreel came. Jibreel would come, kind of ka'dat al-abid. He would sit like a slave in front of the Holy Prophet. He wouldn't cause the Holy Prophet to faint. He says rather this fainting was on Mi'raj when the Prophet reached the maqam of Adana and Allah began to show him his greatest tajalli, his greatest manifestation. Imagine Musa alayhi salam said, my Lord, show me a tajalli from you, and he fainted, and it was just a fire, and it wasn't fire, it was a nur in the form of fire, showed Musa. Musa couldn't take it, he fainted. Here the tajalli al-a'zam, the greatest tajalli, is being manifested upon the Holy Prophet. Imam al-Sadiq says it was there that the Holy Prophet kept on fainting out of awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the night of Mi'raj, where that tajalli al-a'zam, the greatest manifestation of God's secrets, were bestowed on the wujud of the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So what do we conclude from that which I've already said? The first is, the one who reaches total wilaya is greater than anything in this world except Allah. Yes? Is greater than everything except Allah. The one that is wali tam is a nabi for the anbiya as well. He is a nabi of the anbiya as well. In Tafsir Safi, Ayatollah Faiz al-Kashani, he brings a narration from Imam al-Sadiq. He says that in Alam al-Arwah, the Holy Prophet was a Nabi, like in the state, in the spiritual realm, when everything was just in spirit form. He says he was a Nabi for the Anbiya there, and he taught them Tawheed and Ubudiyah and how to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rest of the Anbiya were at a lower rank of Wilayah. The rest of the Anbiya are at a lower rank of Wilaya. They only had access to a certain amount of the names of God. Isa alayhi salam had access to 2 names of God. He was given access to 2 names of God. Musa alayhi salam, the riwayat say, had access to 4 of the names of God. Ibrahim alayhi salam was given access to 8 names of God. But Ali Muhammad say, in this narration, Ali Muhammad say, although Isa was given 2, and Ibrahim 8, and Musa 4, we, Ali Muhammad, have been given all 72 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have control over all 72 of them. The maqam of the Wali Tam is huge. We have access to all 72 names of God. The Holy Wujud of the Holy Prophet and the 13 Masumin. And I said the realm of Wilaya has ranks in it. So the Anbiya are also from the realms of Wilaya, but also the awliya of Allah, those sages and mystics. And me and you, we can ascend into the realms of Wilaya as well. They can have access to a certain number of these names. And that's why we have certain narrations from the Holy Prophet where he'll say things like, ulama ummati, the ulama of my ummah are greater than some of the Anbiya of Bani Israel, are greater than some of the Anbiya of Bani Israel. Actually, now that I've mentioned the narration, it reminds me, Ayatollah ibn Fahd al-Hilli, he is the writer of the book Uddat al-Da'i. He used to live outside the city of Karbala, and he would have a piece of land that he would farm and things like that. And one day they say that there was a Jewish man, he came to see Ibn Fahd al-Hilli. He said, I've heard this narration that the ulama of this ummah, of the ummah of Rasulullah, are greater than the Anbiya of Bani Israel. Is this true? Ibn Fahd al-Hilli said, yes, it is. He says, well, what gives you rank over Musa? What gives you rank over Musa? So Ibn Fahd al-Hilli, he had an item that a stick that he was digging the ground with, and he took his stick and he threw it to the ground, and it turned into a snake. Turned into a snake. Then he picks it up again, and it turns back into a staff. This Jewish man says, well, that doesn't give you afdaliyah, doesn't give you greatness over the Anbiya. That brings you to the same rank at least, that you could do the same miracle that Musa did. He says, no, the difference is when Musa threw down his staff, Musa became afraid when it turned into a snake. But when I threw it down and it turned into a snake, I was not afraid. So the ulama of my ummah are greater than the Anbiya of Bani Israel. So the human being has the ability to rise in the ranks of the realms of Wilaya and get some of those names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Akhund Mullah Ali Masumi Hamadani is one of the Urafa of past. He says that one day I was in the haram of Amirul Mu'mineen, and we were walking around in the haram, and he says a child ran up into the minaret, Zahiran, this is many years ago when the minarets were able to go, and he climbed to the top and he fell from the top of the minaret to the ground. So all the people were standing there watching, and they were in shock. What has happened? When everything goes into slow motion and this child is tumbling from the top of this minaret towards the earth. Everyone's looking. He says there was a laborer that was walking. You could tell he was laboring. His clothes were dirty. He was just, in a state. And he was just walking through the haram of Amirul Mu'mineen. He looked at the child and he said, stop. And the child stopped a meter or two from the ground. The people ran forward, they picked up the child, and then they turned towards this laborer and they ran towards him, and the khuddam of the haram, they took him and they put him into a side room. Akhun Mullah Ali says that I too went into that room and I asked him, said, what is it? Who are you? How did you get this power? How did you get this power? He says, Oh, it's nothing special. A whole lifetime, Allah told me to do something, and I said yes. And one time I asked Allah for something, and He said yes. You see, when you achieve the realms in the ranks of wilayah as well, everything in existence also becomes subservient to you. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a beautiful hadith Qudsi. He says, Ya ibn Adam, O son of Adam, or children of Adam, Ya ibn Adam, أنا غني لا أفتقر. I am the rich that never becomes poor. أطعني فيما أمرتك. Obey me and obey that which I have commanded you to do. أجعلك غنيا لا تقتدر. Says, obey me, do what I've told you to do, and I will make you ghani, that never becomes poor. Says, Ya ibn Adam, أنا حي لا يموت. أنا حي لا أموت. I am the living that shall never die. أطعني فيما أمرتك. Obey me in that which I have commanded you. أجعلك حيا لا تموت. And I will make you the living that shall never die. We have another narration that says that there will be people in heaven, and a letter will come down to one of the dwellers of heaven. من حي لا يموت إلى حي لا يموت. From the living that shall never die to the living that shall never die. Achieve the maqam you can achieve. He says, Ya ibn Adam, أنا أقول للشيء كن فيكون. Says, O son of Adam, I say to something be, and it becomes. Obey me and do whatever I command you. أجعلك تقول للشيء كن فيكون. Obey me, do what I tell you to do, and you too will be able to say to something be, and it shall become. Imagine the rank that you can achieve. This is available to all. If you want to achieve these ranks, Allah has said, obey me, obey me. Don't question. Don't put your own desires in the way. Obey me, and I will make you the living that shall never die. Ajib. Alamat al-Tawa'i. When people ascend these ranks of wilayah, Alamat al-Tawa'i says, one day I was reciting Salatul Wutayra. You know the 2 rakat sitting down after Isha? It's known as Salatul Wutayra. Says I was reciting Salatul Wutayra, and in the one of the surahs after Alhamd, I recited Surah Sad. And he says at that point he had a mukashifa. The angels came, they took him and showed him the river of Sad in heaven. The ascension to the heavens and to be given your own Mi'raj is not impossible. It's not impossible. Because it's just over there. Just need to break through the barrier of the physical into the immaterial. And all that can happen is when you ascend into the realms of becoming one of the awliya of Allah, one of the friends of Allah. Yes, you'll never ever, nobody can ever reach the rank of wilayat tamma, but you can always achieve maqamat within the realms of wilayah. Zahiran, when you look at the individual in the story, he's a laborer. And people were shocked, a laborer. How could he reach this maqam? You don't have to be sitting on the member or going to Hawza or do. It's about you purifying your heart. It's about you purifying your heart. I said to you on the first night, if I'm not mistaken, or the pre to the first night. Said, Al-qalbu yataraddadu bayna al-mulki wal-malakut. Your heart is the revolving door between the mulk and the malakut. You can enter the angelic realms. The key to it is a purified heart. A purified heart. And the heart is only purified when the actions are pure as well. Many people have said, it does not matter what my physical actions are, as long as my heart is pure. That was the Batiniyya movement, and the Imam sent la'na on those people. Those that say, it doesn't matter what I do on the outward, as long as my heart is pure. The Batiniyya movement was cursed by the Imams. If it's not too much trouble, if the brothers could just move forward somewhat more. There's some brothers struggling at the back. If you'd all just come forward a little bit more. Sisters, if you can. You're pretty sardinely packed already. Sorry. Yeah. So everyone, if you just, the younger brothers, if you can come through as well. Sentum. Sentum. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Those that are standing outside as well, there's space now, inshallah. So you can achieve these maqams. On the zahir, this individual was just a laborer, and that's what normal eyes saw. A laborer. There's a hadith that says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has hidden certain things amongst certain things. Says He has hidden a sin amongst sins from which there is no salvation. And He has hidden a good action amongst the good actions for which there is total salvation. The third thing, that He has hidden Laylatul Qadr amongst the nights. And the fourth thing is that He has hidden the awliya of Allah amongst the people. Who knows whether you sit next to one of the awliya of Allah? And this is one of the reasons why we say that do dua in gatherings, although it's recommended you're alone. But one of the benefits of being in a gathering and doing dua is that maybe there's one of the awliya of Allah amongst you. And through the barakah of that person, everyone else's dua is accepted. Hence why I say that these majalis are an opportunity. You come and you pray in this for the barakah of someone that is pure. Your dua is accepted. So the waliyat tam takes directly from God, and in this vertical system of existence, takes directly from God, and he distributes to the lower levels of existence. He takes death from the power of God's mumit, and he gives it to Israel to go and distribute death. He takes hayat from Allah being hay. He takes life from God being the alive, from his sifat of hay, and he gives it to Israfil, for example, to go and distribute life on the earth. He takes rizq from the maqam of raziq, and he gives it to Mikael to go and distribute amongst the world. All of these bounties, all of these rahmah must first descend. This is not to say the waliyat tam bizat is doing anything. Bizat Ali Muhammad are nothing. Because they take only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and manifest only directly from Allah. Bizat, they don't manifest anything themselves from their own essence. They are, like Amirul Mu'mineen says, Ana al-faqir wa anta al-ghani wa hal yarhamu al-faqira illa al-ghani. They are still the creation of Allah. They draw directly from the names of God, from the sifat of God, in the batini sense. in the batin of the alam, in the esoteric of the alam. They draw down, and then from them, it is then passed through the rest of creation. They take ilm from Allah being alim, and they pass it to Jibreel to bring ilm down. They take that ilm, they pass it to Jibreel, and Jibreel brings that ilm down to earth. But the most important part that you must note and must understand, and this is where much of the deviancy on both sides comes. Those people that are exaggerating and become ghali, and those people that become total muqassis. The problem that we have is they don't understand this concept. The ghullat, those that are exaggerators, that become mushrik, say all of these kamalat that Ali Muhammad have are bidhat. They make existence a horizontal axis. They place them on the par with God. That is shirk. That is haram. You're going to hell if you believe that. But this is silsila maratibi. There is a vertical system of existence. Ali Muhammad do not manifest from their dhat, from their essence. They draw from the divine names of God in the system that God has created. They draw directly from there, and then they distribute it to the earth. There are others that misinterpret. Oh, no, imams can't do anything. They don't have any power, blah, blah, blah. And now there's a big debate. You know, people have started. Can I ask the imam direct? Or is it shirk? Can I ask Abul Fadl al-Abbas direct? Or is it shirk? Or do I have to go straight to Allah, wasila of Ali Muhammad? Ayatollah Mujtahidi Tehrani, his teacher, Ayatollah Khansari, those of you that know the Maraja and the history, this is one of the most heavyweight ulama that we have ever had. He was respected throughout all of the Maraja for his knowledge, for his piety. This is an individual who had his fatwa was this, that if a marja becomes unconscious for whatever time, his system of wikalat is removed from him. His wukala no longer remain his wukala because he became unconscious for a moment. So when it came for him to have an operation and they wanted to put him under anesthetic, he said, no, I'll fall unconscious. And so the whole system of wakalat and my wukala and stuff, all of that will break. So he says, look, do it without anesthetic, just give me a tasbih. And he laid down on the operating table and he just started reciting tasbih. He said to him, as soon as I start reciting, you just start operating. It was a couple of hour long procedure. He laid back and he just recited tasbih. And they completed the whole operation without any sort of anesthetic. Because when one ascends, you know, these ranks of wilaya, because then you don't remain in this physical plane. You easily enter other planes, and this is where you have in the example of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's praying and they're pulling an arrow from his foot and he can't feel it because he's no longer in this plane. He's entered those malakuti realms. Nonetheless, Ayatollah Khansari, Ayatollah Mujtahidi asked him that, you know, when I go to Karbala or when I go to Imam al-Rada, do I say which is best? Do I say, oh Allah, for the sake of Imam al-Rada, you give me? Yeah? Listen to this very closely. It says, oh Allah, for the sake of Imam al-Rada, you give me. Or is it better I say Imam al-Rada or Imam al-Hussein, you give me? Imam al-Rada, Imam al-Hussein, you give me. Ayatollah al-Uzama Khansari, he says the second is better. You say directly to the Imam, Ya Imam, you give me. By you give me, you're saying, oh Imam, you ask Allah for me. Because it's the same way. that if I'm here and let's say Brother Amir Mukhtar over there wants me to ask Brother Ali Hashmi over here about something, says, look, I know you two are close. Could you, he can either go directly to Brother Ali and say, look, I know Nabil's all right, you know, he told me to come to you and, you know, maybe you could help me out with something. And he'll be like, okay, well, yeah. Or he could say, look, Nabil, could you go and have a word with Brother Ali? And I'll be like, okay, look, he's a good guy, you know, he's come, I brought his... Which one is he more readily going to accept? Me going to him direct. Says it's the same with Ali Muhammad. When you're going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, with the wasila, rather you just say, Ya Imam, you ask Allah for me, please. You ask Allah for me. No one's removing Allah from the equation. We've already said the wali-e-tam only draws from Allah, has nothing bidhat. He cannot give anything bidhat from his essence. He only draws direct from Allah and gives. And we'll explain when we come into the discussion of Mukhtalif al-Malaika and Mahbit al-Wahi, how this system of Wahi and how the Malaika and everything take and draw from the essence of Ali Muhammad, who draw from the essence of the characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Says, ask directly from the Imam, there's no problem. Just recently someone asked Ayatollah Tahriri, and I translated this and some people may have seen it. Someone asked Ayatollah Tahriri that can we ask the Imam directly? And Ayatollah Tahriri said, can we ask the Imams directly or do we have to give the wasila of the Imams? Ayatollah Tahriri said, asking the Imams directly is no problem. He says, let me give you the example. If you asked someone for something and he gave it to you, like for example, you said, oh, can you pass me an apple? Yeah, and I gave you an apple. Now, you can say, Nabil gave me the apple, or I took the apple from Nabil's hand. He says, what's the difference? When you ask the Imam direct, it's exactly the same. You know the Imam doesn't manifest anything from his own essence. He only gets from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You ask the Imam direct, the Imam gives you because you understand that he only gets it from Allah. The problem is people don't understand our ilm al-kalam, they don't understand our aqidah in the sense of we need to go into depth and understand. There is much infiltration from orthodoxy that has entered into our deen and our understanding of imamat. I'll end at this point, and with this particular notion. And actually, you know, even in addition to that, even in addition to asking directly from the Imams, Ayatollah Tabarisi would say, the writer of Majmu' al-Bayan, the tafsir of the Holy Quran, he would say, sometimes I would go to Imam al-Radha and ask for something and I wouldn't get it. So I would go to Shah Abdul Azim Hassani and ask him, oh Shah Abdul Azim Hassani, you ask Imam Raza on my behalf to ask Allah. So sometimes you need multiple wasilas to go. This is a silsila. This is how it goes. Shouldn't be afraid. Don't be afraid of this. Nobody's denying Tawheed. Nobody's questioning Allah's power. Nobody's putting the Imams on the rank of Allah. We're saying they don't manifest anything from themselves. They give the Holy Prophet, and by when I say Imams, I mean the Holy Prophet of Islam as well. He draws directly. And then from his, through the phase of Allah, and then he passes it on. It passes through the realms of wilayah. Well, end of this point, that the highest maqam in the dua of Rajab, it explains it the most beautiful way. Says Allah, La farqa, there is no difference. La farqa baynaha wa baynak, illa annahum ibaduk. Ya Allah, there is no difference between you and them, except that they are your ibad, except that they are your servants, they are your creation. That's it. The wali-e-tam occupies the highest state. And so every Nabi, every Rasul had to take the oath of wilayat to become a Nabi. In Alam Mithaq, every Nabi had to accept the wilayat of the Holy Prophet and Ali Muhammad in order to become a wali. And because Ali Muhammad are the root of it all, we start this ziyarah. Assalamu alaikum ya ahla baytin nubuwwa wa mawdi' al-rasala. That's it. The maqam of Ali Muhammad. Just give yourself to Ahlul Bayt and see where they will take you. Hold on to their coattails, as many did in Karbala. Tonight we remember Al-Hurr, an individual that is that story of hope. Some years ago I was reciting somewhere, and I had the good fortune to meet with one of the awliya of Allah, extremely pious. The night I was going to go up and recite the Masa'ib of Al-Hurr, as I was going up onto the minbar, he grabbed hold of me and he pulled me closer. He says, I've been told to tell you that whenever you go on the minbar to recite the Masa'ib of Al-Hurr, tell all those in attendance to turn themselves towards Imam al-Hussein, and he will take them towards salvation like he took Hurr towards salvation. And so whenever I recite the Masa'ib of Hurr, I always narrate that point. That he said, tell the young people, tell those in the crowd, that Hussein alayhi salam, hold on to him. He's waiting for you, to guide you, to take you to those ranks that he took Hurr alayhi salam to. The Fajr of the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein turns to Al-Abbas and Ali al-Akbar. Says, Abbas, Ali Akbar, one of my guests is coming. One of my guests is coming. Go welcome him. They go outside and they see as the dawn is dawning, Hurr is coming towards the tents of Imam Hussein. Hands tied, blindfolded, some say, barefoot. Hurr and his son make their way towards Imam Hussein. Hurr has not even reached the tents of Abi Abdullah, that Imam Hussein himself runs and meets Hurr. Hurr with his head down will not look at Imam Hussein, will not look at Imam Hussein. Hurr, head lowered, says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I am the reason for you coming to Karbala. I am the reason for causing fear in the hearts of the daughters of Ali and Zahra. Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I am the reason that you are thirsty. Had li min tawbah. Is there any chance that Hurr can be forgiven? This is your Kareem Imam Hussein. Hurr says, Hadli min tawbah. Imam says to him, Ya Hurr, irfa' ra'sak. Hurr, lift your head. Why have you got your head lowered and shaken? Now that you've come to Hussein, all is forgiven. Hurr comes and embraces Abu Abdullah, embraces him. Hurr says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, it is my request that I go out and fight first. Let me go out and fight against these enemies of God. Some of the narrations say that the son of Hurr was also with him and he went out to fight first. He fought bravely. When he fell to the ground, Hurr wanted to rush to his body. But Imam al-Hussein held Hurr back.
said, no, Lord. It's difficult for a father to go to the grave, to go to the body of his son. Hur, you stay. I'll go. You may not be able to bear it, Hur. A young son lying in his own blood on the earth. I'll go. And so Imam al-Hussein went to the body of the son of Hur. Hur, how lucky you were that Imam al-Hussein went to the body of your son. But when his Ali fell, hit the plains of Karbala, Hussein crawled to the body of his Ali, saying, Ya Ali, where are you? Ali called to me, the sight from my eyes has gone. Hur's turn came to go out and fight. Hur fought bravely, but eventually they surrounded him and they struck him on the head, and Hur fell from his horse. He called out, As-salamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein ran towards the body of Hur. As Hur lay on the earth, Imam lifted his head and placed the head of Hur in his lap. This is one of the very few people in Karbala that Imam reached their body while they still had a soul within their body. He takes the head of Hur and he places it on his lap. He sees that the head of Hur is bleeding. So he takes out from his pocket a handkerchief. They say the handkerchief that was sewn by the hands of Zahra alayhi salam himself. He ties that handkerchief around the head of Hur. And then Imam says to him, O Hur, what a beautiful name your mother gave you. For surely you are Hur in this dunya and Hur in the akhirah. You are free in this dunya and free in the akhirah. The soul of Hur leaves his body. Oh Hur, what a great medal Imam al-Hussein gave you. That there was a wound on your head and he tied the handkerchief of Zahra alayhi salam around your head. He didn't allow your head to rest upon the earth of Karbala. Hur, how lucky you were. But Hur, come and look at Asr Ashur. When you come and tend to the wound on the head of Abi Abdullah, they say for a moment Imam al-Hussein stopped fighting. He sat back on his horse. He took a breath. As he was resting, one Malaun threw a stone that struck the head of Imam al-Hussein. The blood began to flow from his head. Imam al-Hussein lifted his shirt to wipe the blood from his eyes. Harmala, seeing the blessed chest of Imam al-Hussein, fired a three-headed poisoned arrow into the chest of Abi Abdullah. That arrow hit with so much force that the head of the arrow came out the back of Imam al-Hussein. He reached around the back. He pulled the arrow out from his back, calling Bismillah wa billah wa ala millat Rasulillah. A fountain of blood gushed forth from the chest of Hussein. He filled his palms with the blood. He threw it to the heavens. The Maqbar says, by Allah, we never saw a single drop fall back down to the earth. Then he took another handful of that blood and he poured it over his face and said, by Allah, I will meet my grandfather on the day of judgment and I will tell him this person and that person killed me. He was unable to stay upon the horse running. They struck him. He fell from the horse to the ground. Your head was in the lap of Hussein. But come and see Hussein now as he falls from the horse. His head, his face hits against the earth of Karbala. He lies on the ground. Imam al-Hussein took your head in his lap but his head lay on the earth of Karbala. Our Imam al-Hussein was there with you in your final moments to ease your journey home. But oh, you weren't there on Asri Ashur. Hussein lying motionless on the earth, weakened by the fighting, the loss of blood. They say at a moment Hussein felt a weight on his chest. He opened his eyes, الشبر جالس على صدره. Shimr was on the chest of Abi Abdullah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, forgive our sins. Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Ya Allah, I don't know which hajat, what difficulties, what sorrows those in attendance of this majlis have brought with them. Ya Allah, for the sake of the mother Umiyyat of Aba Abdullah, ease their sorrows, dispel their difficulties, and fulfill their hajat. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein this year and every year. Ya Allah, there is a special request for du'a shifa'a for a couple of individuals, bilakhas the mother of Mulana Mubashir Shah of Birmingham. Ya Allah, she is ill for the sake of Imam al-Hussein. Ya Allah, give her shifa'a ajil kamil. Ya Allah, keep safely Azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada around the world. Ya Allah, protect those eyes that cry over Imam al-Hussein. Give them no other sorrow in their life but the sorrow in the gham of Abi Abdullah. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muttaqin. Maarif-e-Islam.